Good morning. Fantastic to see everyone here and some new faces from yesterday. That's great. I hope we didn't scare too many people off with the hard work yesterday. So it's good. Now, is my understanding the Premier would like to make some comments this morning? Yes, I'd like to welcome you up and then we'll go on with some detail.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. This is an incredibly important meeting. This is important for us as Albertans, and it's important for our kids. And it's also important for everyone who is working in the child welfare system, because there are some incredible people, foster parents, social workers, people working in the department, people working in community agencies, all of you who are here today, who are leaders, who know that we can do things well. And that every single time that a child is impacted by violence, by neglect, by decisions that parents or caregivers may make that adversely affects them, that we all hurt. I've had an opportunity over the last 2 or 3 months to talk to an awful lot of people about some of the very specific issues that brought us here today. And it's what is very clear to me, and I'm sure it has been to you, for longer probably than us as a government, and maybe as a society, is that child welfare right across Canada needs to look different than it does today. That it is a tragedy when any child dies, and that there are many children who are suffering every day. I remember when Dave Hancock was our Minister of Human Services, a department that we created because we thought that there were a lot of people working on these sorts of problems, not issues, but problems that needed to work differently together. And we were able to start to make some steps along that path, but it is a long path. And I remember one time sitting with Dave, and he said to me, "What keeps you awake at night?" And I said, what keeps me awake at night is that there are kids across this country and in this province who don't go to bed in a safe place. That they don't have an environment that they can truly call a home. And there is so much work that we need to do. And some of that work, and I know that you've started to talk about it, is longer term. And I'm not here today as a politician to tell you about what we've done and to say that that's as far as we need to go. But I will tell you that some of the steps we've been able to take with respect to creating an independent child advocate, putting Children's First legislation in place that started to deal with how we share information amongst caregivers and adults that are in contact with kids that are vulnerable, was important. The social policy framework, the commitment to ending child poverty are important, and they're not words. I want you to know from my heart, as a mom, that they are not words, but they are part of what we need to do in government with you to make life better for every child in this province. Now, we don't all start from the same place. I'll tell you that for any of you who've heard me speak when I was Justice Minister, I used to joke about the fact that my officials used to worry when I took my glasses off, because that meant that I wasn't using my speech. But I'm going to tell you, this is my speech, which I'm not using. This is what I reflected on last night and this morning, and that's what I'm using. But I am going to put my glasses on because I can't even read my own handwriting. We don't all start from the same place. And families are different. Parents are different, and they make different choices for their parents or their kids, and that's okay. And there's lots of reasons for that. We know that while there are parents that make those choices and need to be respected for making those choices, but there's also a lot of kids that don't get much of a break. And that there are some parents that don't take care of their kids. And in some cases, it's because they won't. And in some cases, it's because they can't. We have a lot of families, as I said, that are very different in this province. There might be financial challenges, cultural challenges. You know, I've had the opportunity, as I'm sure many of you have, to meet incredible parents who are dealing with mental illness, health issues. Perhaps they're in situations involving domestic violence. There's lots of challenges that a lot of our families and caregivers face. There are social circumstances, mental health issues, and in some cases, there are parents who perhaps weren't brought up in an environment where they understand what parenting might be, can be. I won't use the word should. But in Alberta, we're a community that cares about people and we care about each other. And I think sometimes in Alberta we get a little bit confused because there's a lot of talk in Alberta about our freedoms. We're really proud of the fact that we're a conservative province and we respect people's freedoms and we respect individuals' rights to make the choices that they do. And that's really, really important. But there's also a role for government. Because when we talk about freedoms, we want to make sure that kids are free too. It's not just about parents' freedoms. And I know you're going to be talking today about how we balance some of those issues with respect to information so that we can ensure that the information is there so that we can make the right decisions. But I'm here today to tell you that personally and as a government, along with Mamit, Dave, Fred, Sandra, and I think all of you in this room, regardless of where you come from or what your experience has been, that we, as Albertans and as government, have a responsibility as a society to take care of all of our kids. I talk about the fact that I want every kid in Alberta to be able to excel to the best of their ability. And those aren't just words. That'll mean different things for different kids and different families and different communities. And it's about education, it's about publicly funded health care, it's about making the child welfare system better, and it's about understanding that if we do things as well as we should, that the child welfare system will respond to the most tragic circumstances, and that we can do a better job beforehand to make sure that we're not relying on the child welfare system as a Band-Aid solution to the foundational issues that we can deal with as a community and as a society. And quite honestly, I thought a lot about this last night. We talk about freedoms, as I said before, we talk about rights. And we're always having that silly political, ideological conversation about who's right and who's wrong about that. With rights come responsibilities. And one of the reasons that I wanted to work on issues like this and run to be leader of my party and premier of this province is because in this province, we talk about rights. We created a child welfare system as a society many years ago, and then we stopped. We didn't recognize that we're now a province of 4 million people with different challenges than we faced when we were a province of 1 million or 1.5 million people. We live in big cities now. We deal with different social issues, and in many ways, we're doing that very well in a lot of places. But we have more work to do here. So in the long run, we can create a Department of Human Services, focus more on early childhood development, ensure that we're making an education system where people can share information, do our work on safe communities, create family care clinics, focus on primary health care. These are not just words, they have to become meaningful, they have to become substantial, and we need to act together. Because this is not about negotiating people's salaries or ensuring that the status quo in the system stays the same. It's about the big idea, because we have big challenges, and we need to push ourselves to do better. And I don't want these to be empty words, because we need to change the child welfare system, and we need to change the way that we live as a community. You know, there's all those generalities out there. It takes a village to raise a child. And I know I've been in some places where people say, no, it's not your job, it's my job, I'm the parent. And you know what? If you're a parent, you do your job well, that's great. But in cases where we talk about the challenges that we talked about yesterday that I referred to earlier, we do have to be involved. And we're going to be involved. Because we can't use the same old models. We have to create a system, a care system, not a child welfare system, not a bureaucratic structure, but actually a system of care that ensures that we can enable parents to be good parents. And if we get it right, those circumstances where we may have to be involved can be reduced. But it means we need to think differently about who we are and how we support each other, understand the vulnerabilities that people come to our community with, understand that so often people end up in circumstances not by their own choosing. And I'll tell you that this government, this progressive conservative government, is committed to working with you to be involved. I know that yesterday there was much discussion about better support and better training for social workers. I'm going to suggest to you that one of the other things we need to do is to think about what social workers do and how many we have, and whether or not social workers are doing the work that they really need to be doing now. That's how much we have to change what this system looks like. Because child welfare across Canada does need to change. And we will be involved. I think about the incredible privilege we have of living in this province, and that other old generality is society should be tested by how it takes care of the most vulnerable. There are very few in our province that are more vulnerable than the kids that we're talking about today. And I know there have been some very specific recommendations with respect to investigations of child death. I'm so pleased that you're doing this work. And I hope that this forum is an opportunity for each of you who are committed and passionate and who are experts to ensure that we are taking on board everything that you're telling us to make the child welfare care system better and our society stronger. You know, politics is a funny thing, and I know there's a lot of people that would probably choose not to go into politics, and that's probably a very wise decision. There's lots of cutting and thrusting and toing and froing, and one of the things that really surprised me when I first became Premier and we talked about social policy was the number of times that I would hear people say, oh, she's a nanny Premier. She's telling us what to do. You know what? I'm okay with that. I'm not going to tell anybody what to do. But we're going to work together to create a better system, to empower our communities and our families and our caregivers, whether they are parents or not, and you. Because at the end of the day, they are our kids. And we want to make sure that they're happy and that they're healthy, and that we use the incredible resources that we have in this province to make every single child's life better. Thank you.